Everything was not recording. I was waiting on something like that to happen to me. I was waiting on something like that to happen to me. That's funny. Okay, well, moving on. Thank you for tuning in. Hello, hi again. Thank you for coming to this space with me where I mess up constantly, where I journey to authenticity, where I figure out what that means to me and what it means to other people. Today's episode, that's what the intro actually was about before I started it again. It's not going to be that long. I've been crying. My voice is a little bit hoarse. I'm drinking tea, which is helping, but my voice is hoarse from that. And then I completely forgot while in the middle of a voice note journal entry that I was supposed to be doing this next episode on boundaries. And though I do not have full energy for it, it deserves to be done because now that I figured out what this podcast really means to me and what it is for me, essentially it's me holding myself accountable while trying to be authentic and learning what that means to me. And out of all the stuff that I've just been finding out, seeing, going through, and resolving this past week and a half, couple of weeks, I am tired. So, yeah, I've been crying. So, this is not going to be long. I decided to split it into 2 parts. And that's my child, it's my cat. And yeah, so back to your regular scheduled program, sort of. Today's episode is going to be on boundaries, and how they relate to being authentic and how important they are to your relationships. This first part, I think I'm only going to go into like what boundaries are great for. So I will start off by the definition of boundaries. The way that the internet has it explained here is boundaries are the limits or rules we set for ourselves in relationships, interactions, and experiences. They help define acceptable and unacceptable terms of behavior, emotional engagement, and physical space. Healthy boundaries are essential for self care, maintaining mutual respect in relationships, and fostering emotional safety. Now, with that being said, there are different types of boundaries. There's physical, emotional, even material boundaries and digital boundaries. That was brand new to me, like the definition of it, like hearing it, but I already knew what it was. Obviously, like that's cutting off your screen time. People starting to do that more. But there are so many different types of boundaries, and nobody can tell you, again, something I learned, nobody can tell you what those are because they're supposed to be completely unique to you and your experience as a person and how you want to go about certain relationships in your life, how you want your life to look, how you want to look, how you want to feel, how you want those relationships to be. Like it's completely, what is the word that I'm looking for? Subjective, not objective. I think that's how you use that. Those, yeah. But using those boundaries, which is why they're supposed to be unique, it helps. They. How do I put this? Like your authenticity and boundaries relate to each other because those boundaries have to be. Why is that wet? Oh, it wasn't. Okay. Sorry. What? Your boundaries have to be specific to you because it is a part of how you want to live your life authentically. And I'll put that, like the example that I have for that is So let's say that you're talking to someone, you know what I mean? And it's someone extremely important to you. It's someone that you care about a lot, but the conversations do end up leaving you drained. Well, now you, being the person that you are, have to recognize this is kind of putting a strain or stress on the relationship that I have with this person, because now I'm starting to resent having to talk to them, even though I know that they care about me and I care about them. I don't really know if they understand that this is a point of uncomfort for me. Like it just, it gives me anxiety, leaves a sour taste in my mouth. I don't like. Now you have to recognize, like, okay, well then, boundary. I've just got to let them know, like, we just can't talk. Or be more specific. If it's not something or someone that you really want to remove from your life, you're going to have to say, okay, where does this conversation turn sour? How does it get to a point to where I start to feel uncomfortable? Let's say that this person always ends up talking about finances, and you're just like, I have no problem with my finances. You know what I mean? I don't come from scarcity or lack mindset. I am a little bit more in control with my finances. I am successful where I am. If you are more so that type of person, always telling the person who may not be that way in their finances, who may not be a little bit more positive in their thinking of what they have. Maybe they're more the person that focuses on what they lack as opposed to what they have, so they don't really truly act grateful or show their gratefulness, gratitude, show their gratitude to the things that they have and how they are able to have such great things. um oh, you being a crackhead right now. I'm gonna find something for you to play with. Oh, you calm down. No. 1 second while I find this kid. Normally he's asleep. Yeah, you want to just be obnoxious right now. Where's your ball? Do you want to be up here? We'll find out. Okay, so like I was saying, say that this person is someone who thinks more so of what they lack and not what they have, and you're the opposite. Also, you may be the type of person that's like, okay, I don't really want to talk about this kind of thing with you because I feel like only one of us is having a problem and the other is not. Yes, you may want to validate this person, but perhaps you would just prefer to stay away from the conversation of finances as a whole. Now you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to tell this person? A, when you be talking about money, it gets on my nerves because I'm not having a problem. You having a problem. And when you're having a problem with this and I'm trying to help, but like you're not listening to me, or maybe you're having a problem with this and I'm not having a problem, but I don't really know how to be there for you. I don't really know, what to tell you. Or maybe even you just don't want to have a conversation about finances because you cool where you at, and you don't want to make it seem like, I'm fine. You just don't want to be a jerk. Maybe you just don't want to have the conversation. Maybe you just don't want to talk about it. How do you tell that person that without that person, feeling like you don't care? Well, first of all, you have to draw the boundary period and just say, hey, I don't really like talking about finances with you. The conversation's getting a little negative. Is it okay if we change the channel? Is it okay if we go to a different conversation? You know what I'm saying? You should be able to do that with somebody, because that's how you want for your relationship to be with that person. You want to sit there and say, okay, well, I don't really like talking to you about this stuff, but we can talk about this any day. You have to figure out how you want for that person to be in your life and how you need for the rest of your conversations to go, or the stuff that you want to, how maybe you want them to act, or how maybe you want them to just limit that sort of conversation, or limit them talking bad about themselves, or limit them talking bad about others. Or maybe you want to limit how much contact you have with somebody because you don't feel like you have their support, or maybe you don't feel like you can be as supportive for them. There are so many ways to draw these boundaries, but you have to do so in order to make sure that you are acting out of your most honest, truthful, authentic, real, actual, in real life, flesh and blood person self. The things that you actually want to feel and the things that you actually want from another person. You have to be able to figure those things out first. So you have to know who you are, but that's that's really how they tie into each other very deeply, because if you don't have those boundaries because you're too busy saying, okay, well, you know what? Maybe they're just having a problem in their finances and they do want advice. Okay, then you go ahead and you give them that advice. If they take that advice, cool. Maybe y'all can focus on something that's a little bit more solution oriented so that this person is not having financial problems. All right. Awesome. But let's say that it doesn't go that way. Now, again, now that is where you have to find out like, okay, am I cool with staying around with this, or do I need to go ahead and exit stage left? I need to make a decision because I don't want to continue to have a conversation with this person that I care for so deeply, somebody that I'm always having fun with and always laughing with, and I can tell my dreams and aspirations, and they're you know given other things in the relationship are really good. Like, you don't want to give up this person because you care for them. You know what I'm saying? And shit, maybe even the boundary may have to be, you may have to let this person go for 6 months till maybe they can change their ways, and maybe you can change your ways a little bit to, I just feel there's just so much in it. And, ugh, but either way, they're very important to each other because you have to really know the things that you want. You have to recognize that growing your authenticity means that, it allows you to express your true self while protecting, your core identity, while still saying, all right, I don't want to talk to you about finances, but that doesn't mean that I don't care about you any less. So if it's advice that you want, I can give you advice. If that's not what you want from me, can we just not talk about this? You know what I'm saying? And you're staying true to yourself, because now you're like, hey, like, I just don't like the way it feels. It makes me feel very uncomfortable when you're talking about you having financial issues, and I really don't look at my finances like that. And even if this person wasn't financially successful or wasn't doing as well, even if they, they may still have those issues where, like, man, I'm having trouble paying this bill. You know what I'm saying? They may still have their issues as well. Maybe that person just doesn't like to look at finances like, oh my God, it's the end of the world, I'm going to be home. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that person doesn't like to look at their finances like that. Maybe that person is still a little bit more of, I don't know how I've been able to do it, but I've been able to pay my bills. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to be able to pay my bills. Faith of a mustard seed. Some people really do look at their finances. Some people look at their life like that as a whole. You know what I mean? And it helps a little bit, cuz then you're not worried about some stuff you can't control. You know what I'm saying? Or if you are worried about something that you can't control, you can bring yourself back to stasis to figure out, okay, what is my next course of action then? If I'm having issues with my paying my bills, what can I do? And then maybe that person can go to another person and say, hey, I'm having some issues and I want some advice. Can you help me? Now you've got people acting, like, expressing themselves, acting in their true self, and yet they're not giving up too much of themselves to make another person feel better. Because let's say that this person does allow the negative speaker to continue with talking negatively. That's just going to gain a whole bunch of resentment. It's going to gain a whole bunch of irritation. Like, think about it. If you were to have a conversation with somebody that's always saying how bad something is, and this is coming from somebody who has had that, like, I've had somebody tell me that before. So, like, you're just constantly like, oh, I'm mad about this and I'm sad about this and it sucks that it always has to be, there's just always just this pessimistic state of mind. and you're like, damn, I was feeling pretty good today. I don't really want to talk to this person. You gonna start ignoring phone calls. You gonna start like purposefully not engaging in conversation with them at all. Like there's gonna be a lot of stuff that's gonna end up coming up in a way that may not be the best for the relationship. So boundaries are extremely important for both people. Like it helps in, what did I say? Like, what did I say earlier? Like protecting your core identity. It helps with protecting your core identity, like who you are as a whole. You're somebody who was having a good day today. You're somebody that's not thinking like that about their finances. You know, you're not in that same situation. So you're just like, because you didn't give that boundary. So now you're pouring from an empty cup. You don't have the energy to expend to listen to that person, or even tell that person, okay, I don't really want to talk about this situation anymore. You know what I mean? So now you kind of have a little bit of resentment, and utilizing boundaries. Oh, I'm so sorry, my love. Utilizing those boundaries keeps you, I know, um, keeps you in the state of self-awareness. You know, in order to create those boundaries, you have to know yourself. I said that earlier. You are, you know, who you are, and what you value and what you need, what you desire, things of that nature. You have to understand where all of that comes from. So you have to be more self-aware of what's going on around you. You have to look at, you know what, actually, I didn't like the way that conversation went. I didn't like the way that made me feel. Let me go say something. Let me go tell this person something. You know what I mean? And it not, I don't know if I've said this before, but I'm always going to use song lyrics because song lyrics be teaching me stuff. So, Banks, I don't know if anybody listens to Banks, but there's a song that she has where she says, not every conversation is a new grenade. And that is so true. Not every conversation has to be a new grenade. It does not always need to go down like that. So yes, you can go to a person and say, "Hey, you know what? That kind of didn't make me feel good." Like maybe say that the way that you said that, the tone that you took, it made me feel like you were trying to. And this is also where a very deep emotional vocabulary has to come into play. So, like, self awareness is a very, very big, important part of it, because you can't just say, I didn't like that. You know, sometimes you have to recognize, well, why didn't you like that? Because in going back to the example that I had of the two people that, one has financial issues and the other one just doesn't see financial issues as something to stress about, um, or to be overly stressful about, or to be overly negative about. Um, you know, one person has to figure out, like, I didn't really like the way that you know, that made me feel. Like maybe you were hanging out with this person, y'all were talking about other stuff, but then it landed on financial issues and it just left a bad taste in your mouth. Now you walking away from that conversation like, damn, that I didn't like that visit that time. That made me feel uneasy. But you have to figure out why. You have to be like, okay, why didn't I like it? Like I feel like we had great food, you know, we smoked, like it was real good weed. We laughed. What did we talk about? Oh, we did talk about, finances. You know, you have to be like, okay, now I remember where I felt uncomfortable and now I know where that's coming from. You know what I mean? That's just an example, but you can use that in any point in your life, anywhere in life. You can use that inner feeling of, now that was weird. Or even, oh, that felt great though. You have the power. You have, because you know yourself, and you are yourself. You are you. You're not anyone else. So only you can tell you how you feel. You don't have to sit there and allow somebody else to make you feel like you don't know what you feel. And you don't have to question yourself about it. Just at that point in time, especially if you're into self-reflection, and I think everyone should be into self-reflection, but more specifically if you're into journaling, write it down. Write it down. Or do what I'm doing. Like, this is part of the reason why I started the podcast, because it's I talk too much. I talk way too fucking much, and I get very confused very quickly, because I will have one train of thought crash into another train of thought, and then it gets wild from there. But as you can tell by my rambling, but it's good to know those things about yourself so that you can go back and say, okay, so this is what happened on this day at this time, at this time, at this time. And I know why now it makes me feel uncomfortable to go to that person and talk about finances. Then I feel like you have to say, okay, because that makes me uncomfortable, I now know that I have to go to this person and say, I didn't like that. So now here is where the self awareness bleeds into the honest communication. You need honest communication in order to set those boundaries because it requires you to be open and honest. Setting those boundaries, now you have to tell yourself, okay, now I have to tell this person that I absolutely just love being around. You know what I mean? This person that I rock with heavy. Like I'm always down for this person. This person's always down for me. Now I have to say, hey, when we were talking the last time and we talked about so and so, then we talked about finances, I didn't feel okay with that. And therein is where you go to um figuring out, okay, is it advice that you want on finances, and that's why you keep bringing up the topic? Because if it is, I would love to help you out with that. You know what I'm saying? Now you have to be honest about that. You have to be open about that. And it's not up to you to emotionally regulate another person. So it's not up to you to say, okay, well, I got to say it in this way so that they don't feel this and that they don't feel that and they don't feel that. That's still something that I'm learning. Sometimes you just do have to say stuff and be like, okay, my intention is, because some people need disclaimers. I have a very important person in my life, and I'm pretty sure when they hear this, they're gonna be like, but yeah, no, I'm talking about a whole bunch of people behind their back, because the stuff I can't say to their face is what I'm gonna say now. And I'm gonna be honest about it, because I mean that's essentially what this podcast is. It's holding my ass accountable. And I need this to hold my ass accountable because I'm too scared to say it to their face, because I'm so worried of how they're going to take it. I am so terrified of hurting somebody that I care about's feelings, or hurting somebody that, you know, somebody who's helping me, or somebody who's doing something. I'm so scared to say something to their face because I am afraid of the abandonment, of the rejection, and everything else that comes with it. But now, you have to look at a person and be like, nope, nope, I got to be honest about it. I forgot the story that I was going to say, so I'm going to just move on. But you have to set these boundaries, and you have to be honest about them. You have to be honest about your preferences. You have to be honest about your needs. You have to be honest about your limit, because at a certain point in time, you're gonna have to tell somebody like, yo, I cannot keep talking to you about the same crap that I've been talking to you about, because I'm not having that problem. And even if I was having that problem, I'm right now, I'm just not at the capacity. This is my limit. I'm at the limit for you to vent to me anymore, because I have told you about this and I have helped you out, and now I just really don't want to listen to it. There are certain, and you being who you are allowed to, what's the word that I want? You are allowed to adjust that scale to whatever makes you feel comfortable. If you do not have the tools or the faculties, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, what have you, all the leads, if you are not at the capacity, or you have the tools to, and you're self-aware enough about it to know that you cannot handle that, then but you're just gonna have to tell them you can't handle it. And they're gonna have to understand it. Right now, it's just not a possibility. So that honest communication keeps you in your most authentic self, and it thrives when you are able to, because you're able to communicate your truth without that judgment or that fear of rejection. Because now at that point, you're like, okay, I gotta say it for real. I have to say it out loud. I have to give you that verbal, like, I'm so sorry, baby, but I gotta put you in your little cubby hole. I've always said to myself, because I talk to myself a lot. I talk to my angels, but you know what I mean. I I often say that I have cubby holes that I put people in. So people that I know that I can talk to about spirituality over here. But sometimes them people that I can talk to about spirituality, about human design, about Akashic records, about cleansing and herbs and all that good shit, energetic anything and everything, those people, some of those people I may not be able to talk about racism with. So I'm gonna have to keep them people over there, and anything that having to do with my race, and all I have to keep over here with those people that I can talk spiritually with and racism with. So people do have their cubby holes, and sometimes people and their cubby holes get expired. And that's in where that's kind of sort of where that saying of those people are in your life for a reason or a season, both, but not everybody's supposed to be there forever. So it's like, okay, I may have blown up with you like spiritually, and now I feel like I have to shift my focus somewhere else. So I will be shifting my focus somewhere else. And I wish people wouldn't take it so personally, because you just kind of outgrow certain things and certain patterns and habits. And some people have not learned that lesson yet. So going back to the person who doesn't look at their finances in such a negative light, and then to the person that does, now the person who is like, hey, I don't like that we talk about that. Now the person who does talk like that has a few options. This person can either decide to see that that's something that they do, and ask for the advice and just be like, oh, I did not notice that. You know what, we won't talk about this, or I want to talk about this because I do need some advice. Or they're going to be those people that are like, oh, well, I just don't feel like you care about me then. If you don't want to hear me like vent, I just like to vent to you. And it's just like, okay, well, that's okay as well. But when it dominates the conversation, not okay with me anymore. You see what I mean? There are ways to to go back and forth in this, but it really does take people being very aware of themselves, and very emotionally aware of themselves, and to really be open and honest and saying, okay, well, this is my boundary to you. We're not going to talk about stuff like that. And then the other person has the choice to either respect and accept that boundary and be like, okay, then I will make a conscious effort to, um, not talk about finances. And then that person has to be self aware and be like, okay, I may, slip, because someone giving you the boundary is also a lesson for you to learn how to control that shit. Because sometimes, people are going to mess up and they're going to be like, oh, like I did forget. I am going to honestly say that you only got like 3 chances, but I'm going to give you warnings. And each warning is going to intensify until the third warning, where I'm going to be like, look, I'm not talking to you. I don't like the conversations that we have, because they always end up turning to something that I generally don't feel negatively about. So I would like to not discuss this with you. And then you can choose to walk off or sit there and say, we can discuss something else if you like. I feel like when I hear it like this, I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. But I never put it into practice because I'm still so scared. Ugh, so scared. I don't like it. And I told you, like, this is, I've learning. I'm learning. I'm literally, this is where I am in the journey. And the action of it has got me crying. And I'm about to start crying again, because I'm telling you, right after I end this episode, I'm finna go right back to crying. I learned some things. I found out some things, and now I know I have to do some things, and I know I have to do some things in order to do some things. So I need me time. Where was I at? Oh, and emotional integrity. Boundaries also help you stay true to your feelings and emotions. When you actually give that boundary and you're like, yo, like, this is my limit, you're honoring where you have your authentic emotional state. You're honoring where your emotions are at that point. You're honoring, I ain't got the capacity to deal with this, or I just don't want to deal with it because I just don't like it. And you tell that person, you're like, now I know for a fact that I know that this is my need, and I'm going to go after what I need. And hopefully, like I said earlier, hopefully that person will look at you and be like, oh, yes, I have to respect that boundary. I will respect that boundary and be like, all right, I'm learning to do that as well, because maybe that person has never had a boundary, but they're excited and I'm hoping with all of my heart of hearts that the person that you tell that to is like, oh my gosh, like I am so happy that you decided to tell me that this is where your boundary is, because now I know. Now I know that I can continue to have you in my life as this beautiful, wonderful, amazing person that I absolutely adore, and I don't have to make you feel uncomfortable. You would hope that that amount of mutual respect and that dynamic would go back and forth. So those boundaries ensure that your authenticity is respected and reciprocated by others, by everybody else, by your mom, by your dad, by your sister, by your friends, by your brothers, by your aunts, by your uncles, by your cousins, by your people that you work with, by your cat, by your butterflies outside, by your birds, whoever, because cats draw boundaries too in real life. That's actually where I learned a couple of my own. So, I mean, like you start to recognize like this is now a healthier dynamic that we have. This is a healthier respect that we have for each other. So you get respect from that other person, but then you start to respect yourself, because now you're like, okay, cool. I see now. I see now where this boundary is, and now I can also continue to keep this person in my life as, the funny, intelligent, grounded person that they are. I can keep them in my life. And I can continue to have these visits and have these conversations besides the one with fine, or you know what I mean? You start to get that self-respect, and the self-respect strengthens your ability to live authentically. Cuz now you're not overextending yourself for somebody else. They're it's very important to have them. It doesn't compromise your identity for external validation, and it keeps you in that mindset of, I don't need to make anybody else feel better, just myself. And like I said, that's where I am in my journey. That's exactly where I am right now. I'm trying not to worry so much about the energy that I'm putting into somebody else's feelings more than my own, because I'm recognizing that that's also taking my focus out of the shit that I really need to do. I'm about to cry. It's also taking my focus off of other stuff that I know I need to do. And yet I am so scared of verbalizing these boundaries. Oh my God. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get off because I'm gonna cry. So, in short, boundaries are the frame of work that support your authenticity. They ensure that you can be yourself without being overwhelmed, manipulated, or drained by others. I wrote that down as like the beginning to the second part. But that's just going to be the end to this first part because I cannot. I cannot. So, yes, this is me holding myself accountable. I just want everyone who's listening, anybody who's listening, to just go to your journal right now and figure out what your needs are. What are your needs? What are your desires? What do you want from your life? Who do you want to be there? What type of people? What do you want it to look like? And then I want you to start acting that. This is me telling you because I'm telling myself. Well, I hope everybody has a great day. And bye. And I will most likely be out with another one next week. We don't know yet. But thank you so much again for joining me on this. I'm going to go and cry now. Bye.